The information found in this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for treatment from a licensed mental health professional. Thank you for listening to the Honeybee Podcast. Today, we are discussing ideas for parents to consider when they want to help their child practice new and desired behavior. For example, consistently cleaning their room or consistently doing their homework, any variation thereof. To help with this conversation, I have invited Dr. Courtney Haight. Dr. Haight is a licensed psychologist who has a private practice working with youth and families in Southern Nevada. Dr. Haight provides psychological services to youth and families using evidence-based practice focusing on a variety of areas, for example, anxiety and mood disorders, school refusal, giftedness, high-functioning autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, and parent and child support. Dr. Haight's main area of focus is treating anxiety disorders like selective mutism, OCD, social and specific phobia, separation anxiety, panic, and generalized anxiety disorder, using evidenced treatment including CBT, exposure therapy, and exposure and response prevention. She received her PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. She has also held positions as an assistant professor and has worked with the Oregon Social Learning Center, gaining skills in parent management training and evidence-based programming serving youth and families. Dr. Haight's office is located in Henderson, Nevada. And now, let's get the conversation started. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Today's conversation will be centered around ways that parents can build mastery in decreasing undesirable behaviors in their children. I received a really great letter from a concerned parent, and the concerns identified in this letter have been things that I've heard before in my work with parents. So here's what the parent wrote in to me. Dear Honeybee, I am struggling right now. I have a 10-year-old son who is a great kid in general, but his behaviors have been a living nightmare at home. My 10-year-old was really great about keeping his room clean up until about 3 months ago. I've tried talking to him, reasoning with him, bribing him with goodies, and still he outright refuses to clean his room. Finally, out of frustration, I decided to remove everything out of his room with the exception of his bed and his dresser, hoping that would motivate him to do as he's told. I explained he would get his toys and electronics back once he cleaned his room consistently. He told me that he doesn't care about getting his things back. So what do I do now? Signed, Dad in Despair. To help with problem solving this, I have the pleasure of sharing space with Dr. Courtney Haight, a psychologist in Nevada who specializes in evidence-based treatment with youth and families. Dr. Haight, you heard the question. There is a dad in despair, and he is in need of help. First, I'd like to ask my guests to share a quote, a passage, or some other helpful information that will shape today's chat. Please start wherever you feel is the best place to launch. What do you have for us, Dr. Haight?
Well, thanks so much for letting me join you, Vina. I'm glad we can talk about this topic because I think this is definitely an area that I know you said you see it in your work with parents, as do myself, that you feel like you got it and that you're on track and the strategies that you've used to get behaviors and compliance in your family on board don't seem to work. So I want to validate that, I hear this a lot, and that the things that may have worked in the past as a kid developmentally ages don't necessarily work during different developmental periods. So I think not to spare, I hear that they worry about that their kid doesn't care. um, and that's the thing that we often throw out, that kids are always trying to figure out their environment, how to navigate their environment. As they age, they gain more autonomy as well. So I think there's really some specific strategies that I help folks work on that help shape that behavior at a variety of different ages.
So we have a 10-year-old boy, right? And you raise a great point, something that I have been present to, and sometimes I forget, right? Like the strategies that work for one age group as the child matures may not work anymore, right? So like bribing or pleading or giving directives at 5, which may work, changes when the kid is 10 or a preteen.
There's similar strategies. So you don't have to feel like, oh, there's brand new strategies. We just have to adapt them as a child ages. And I kind of want to step back from the word bribe too, because I often hear parents like, I don't want to bribe, or we're in a culture of I don't want to give something for a behavior that should be expected. As parents, we need to reframe that a little bit. We all work and do things for things that motivate us, make us feel good, make us feel positive. So I like a bribe would be giving a child something like, I'm going to give you an ice cream cone if you clean your room. So they give the ice cream cone and then they make them clean their room. We all know we give them the ice cream cone. What's going to happen? The room's not going to get cleaned. We're going to get frustrated. We get back into that cycle of yelling and arguing. And then we're even in the worst place because I'm upset because I gave you the ice cream cone and you didn't do what you needed to do. So that would be a bribe. So a difference between what I call a contingency or a very specific expectation is when you clean your room, you will get A, B, and C. So sometimes folks do an allowance with that. If you do certain chores, you get an allowance. So you have to have the behavior met before you get the contingency, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I think we want to stay away from bribes because bribes are ineffective. And the research shows that they are not effective because, like the example that I explained, that we get ourselves in this catch-22 of giving the reward without actually getting the behavior. So we want to stay away from bribes. Bribes no good. Contingency is awesome, and they really help us shape behavior.
You raise a great point, right? Like the if-then. If you clean your room, then this will happen. If you do this, then that will happen. The shaping of behavior. Can you explain a little bit about what that means? What does shaping behavior mean? And, and then we'll just build from there.
Shaping means that we're trying to meet a child where they're at. And so this is the beautiful thing. I work with kids that are developmentally typical, to those that struggle with developmental delays, to anxiety, to mood, to kids that are just having some typical non-compliance issues. So you're looking at your child, and you can have multiple children with many different ways that they respond too, right? You have one kid that responds differently than your other child, but the same strategy can work for all of them. You're just looking at, okay, where is my child at? And how can I break that task down into small steps for them so that they can be successful? So what often happens, like I heard in the letter that was sent to you, is that I got so frustrated that I took it all away, right? I'm just at my wit's end. You know how to clean your room. What is going on? I'm going to wipe everything out, and hopefully that's going to motivate you. And what that does for kids, the research shows, is that we lose motivation, and it becomes too overwhelming. Even though it's a task that we may know that they can do, it becomes too overwhelming. Why should I do it? I lose complete motivation for it. So really meeting them where they're at and breaking that down to get to our end goal. So our end goal would be, hopefully that parent wants the child to clean the room without a bunch of prompting. And then, wow, every week you just have your room clean and awesome, you get your allowance. But in the meantime, as things change for this youth, for whatever is going on, maybe they have more stuff going on and they're becoming overwhelmed more easily. Maybe a task is, we think they understand it, but they actually really don't understand all the components. Or maybe they bring to the table something like some attention deficit symptoms, and organizing a large task like cleaning your room is really hard for them. So we're really looking at that kid and saying, how do I break this down so they can meet it with the idea that I'm going to shape it towards my end goal of I'm going to want them to clean their room without prompting, and do that on a consistent basis. And again, depending on the child and their skills and their skill sets and what they bring to the table, it takes different amounts of time as well. So I think we have to be patient with our expectations, that this isn't we'll do it once and they might be on board. Some kids might be like that, and other kids may need that we hang out at smaller steps. So it might be that I'm sitting down with the room cleaning and saying, okay, let's put a visual schedule up on what needs to be done. You need your bed made. You need to clean up the stuff off your floor, and then you need to organize your bookshelf. There's kind of a checklist, and we're shaping towards that. And maybe we can even be as specific as giving our contingencies based on those small steps. So that maybe I mess up one. Maybe making it is my dreaded task. I loathe it. I become a teenager, and I hate making the bed. It's just the worst thing in the world. We know that sometimes frustration tolerance for teenagers for very simple tasks can be really, really high.
Right.
But it allows them to stay on board and engaged, right? So if I were to say, oh, if you don't do all of these things, you're not going to get the money for your job, then we lose motivation for that. This is a way to get kids to do what we want in the end. Not that we would stay in this place forever. So I think sometimes parents get frustrated with is like, I have to reinforce for all these small steps. And it seems like, wow, overkill. And they should just be doing this. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? They're not, unfortunately. So what we have to do is break it down, reinforce these small steps. And over time, then we start to shape it down. So maybe once they get all those 3 steps on, and they're rocking on that, and they're doing well, you're not having to give them reminders, then we shape that down into this 2 steps. Well, it all gets put into morning routine or cleaning your bedroom. That's what a shaping procedure looks like. It really is just breaking it down into small steps because the goal is not to remove privileges. The goal is to focus on opportunities to reinforce a child. And I think that's what I spend a lot of time on with my families, because I think it's natural for us. A behavior that we don't want is occurring, and there needs to be a privilege or a consequence. That's kind of naturally how our society manages behavior. And when we look at what gives us the strongest response, so yes, privileges and consequences and contingencies are an important process in that. But we actually get way more if we can focus on the positive things that kids are doing and reinforcing versus privilege removal. So if we can set up a system in which we're reinforcing versus privilege removal, it's going to actually shape behavior quicker and more effectively. So, for example, rather than yelling at my kid, oh, you haven't cleaned up your bed, you're doing this, I'm frustrated. A totally normal response for a parent. I'm going to take everything out because I got to motivate this kid because they need to be able to clean their room.
Right.
Versus saying, hey, you know what? Sometimes we don't pay attention to the great things that you're doing. I know we're busy. I'm busy as a mom. I'm busy as a dad. I'm busy as grandma, whoever's doing the caregiving, that we're busy. And I really want to pay attention to the good things that you're doing. So what we're doing is focusing way more on positive reinforcement rather than catching them being bad. We're catching them being good. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You said really important things here, and I really appreciate how you explained shaping behavior. The first thing I want to go after before I ask you to say more about one particular thing is, you mentioned how parents, out of frustration and understandably so, have the inclination, like, let me just wipe everything out of the room. And you spoke to how for that child, it actually does not increase compliance. It makes them lose motivation. And when I'm having therapy sessions with children who have been in this situation, in this struggle with their parent, more often than not, the kiddo is saying to me like, well, I don't have anything anyway, so what's the point? So I just appreciate you naming that and also encouraging parents to practice breaking things down in smaller steps because cleaning your room is so big. I think back to times where, my bouncy brain, because I still have bouncy brain, is like super active, right? And then my room ends up being what looks like, chaos contained. And my parent tells me to clean my room and I'm like, whoa, where do I begin? And then I just end up just kind of like doing my best. And it's not exactly what my parent asked. So to that end, Dr. Haight, could you please give us some information about breaking things down into smaller steps? You spoke about making the bed, you spoke about the bookshelf, and I think I also heard you say something about visual cues. So can you expound on those things for me, please?
Yeah, and I want to step back just a little bit and also validate that, if a parent gets to the point, we all do it. We all have I talk about parenting as not being perfect, but being good enough. And we're going to have our parents be like, whoa, epic fail, or whoa, I can't believe I just did that. You can always go back. So if you had the moment in frustration, we're writing everything out, everything is gone. We can always come back and say, you know what? I thought about this, and I don't know if this is helpful for us. That's a beautiful parenting moment. Yeah. That's kind of one of the keys that I tell folks is that you can always go back. I think parents sometimes get stuck in a rut of, oh my goodness, I made the wrong mistake. Now I have to stick with it, which consistency is what I talk about a ton, that you want to be consistent and have consistent follow through and not change the expectations. But in a moment like this, if it's directed by you, that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect. It really is saying, okay, that wasn't the helpful response. And coming back and having a discussion with your child to say, hey, I don't know if this is the best way that I want to deal with this. Mom or dad or guardian is going to approach this in a different way, and this is what we're going to do. So again, showing your child and teaching your child that you can have flexibility, and that who's in charge? Parent is in charge. And that's kind of the goal, that they're not changing what's going on, that the consistency is coming from you and that the changes are coming from you as the parent or caregiver. Mm-hmm. So cleaning the room, or I deal with morning routine, nighttime routine. And, even my kids that are the smartest, I work with a variety of kids that have a variety of intellectual functioning. And I think all kids can benefit from very specific expectations. And so I think oftentimes they know how to clean their room. It never hurts to set the expectation. Now, again, some kids are going to need more prompts and more help and more assistance than others based on their own individual skills. But I think for your typical kid that may be functioning well, I even have kids that are gifted that still need this. So again, you can be the smartest kid in the world. I think don't forget to lay the expectation and be clear with your child on what you need. So when you say clean your room, or get ready in the morning, or do your homework, that we're really specific in what that means. Not that we have to repeat it over and over again, but that in a neutral moment, we're sitting down and being very clear on the expectations. So really well-defined expectations. So coming back into place, I really need you to clean your room. This is helpful for the family. We all want to keep our spaces clean. So I know there's a lot of roles that parents have. Some of them are teachers, a protector. We have all these roles that we play as a parent. So you can have a nice small teaching moment there. Because I always say we want to be careful. Sometimes parents, we like to talk too much, way too much. And then our kids will go to the Charlie Brown, right? So that we want to be specific, but not overly tangential. As I'm talking right now, I'm like, well, I'd probably be talking way too much. If I'm talking to a kid, way too much right now.
I'm loving all this, though. This is excellent.
But I think they have so many roles they play. And I know parents generally, they want to help their kid develop in the best way possible. So I think there's sometimes a lot of anxiety that comes about, am I doing the right thing? And in that moment, we tend to talk way too much. And some folks get into that lecturing mode. And that really loses kids. This is where if we have these small moments of well-defined expectations, they can help a parent out to get your child engaged, bored, and we're focusing on what they're doing well, so their ears are open, versus lecturing and then focusing on what they didn't do well. We've just shut down. And they might be looking at you, but you're not getting their full attention. So these strategies really help you get their attention. And usually for like a room clean, I would sit down, and no matter who the kid is, when we first put anything in place, and anytime I'm going to put a contingency in place so that you can earn something for a behavior, I'm very clear on what the expectations are. So, hey, we need to clean our room as part of our family where everybody's keeping their space clean, and part of your space is your room. Mom and dad keep a hold of this, or, whoever's caregiving does this. And this is what I'm going to need you to do. Every week we do this, or if we want it done by a certain time or a certain day, that we're really specific in that. And again, it depends on what your expectations are. Some families are like, oh, I just want it cleaned once a week. I don't really care when. But some kids may need some more help with scaffolding that. But hey, maybe the weekend's a good time for us, or you're really busy during the week with all your sports and your piano and whatever else. Maybe this day would be a good day. So helping them problem solve. So again, you're having a nice moment and helping them gain some executive functioning skills and some organization while giving them some really well-defined expectations to set them up for success. because we want them to earn whatever we're putting out there to earn. Because if they don't, they're going to lose interest really quickly. Or if we set the bar too high, then they're going to lose interest really quickly. And we're going to get the I don't care. This is stupid. But don't be taken aback either. Whenever we put something new in, and it's something a kid doesn't want to do, that is a go-to saying to see if I can change that system. So I have a lot of kids where we'll set up a nice system where they can earn great things and the system is attainable and set up to where they can reach it. But it's change. And we don't like change as humans. No. We like to be in our pattern. And especially kids like to be in their pattern. So they might say, this is dumb. I don't like that. Well, and we do want our motivator to be reinforcing. So my big ones for kids are they can earn their technology time. A lot of kids like allowance. You have to look at your kid and see what's reinforcing for them. And it doesn't have to be the huge thing. So you don't have to be giving them hundreds of dollars. You need to look at what works for your family, but what's reinforcing to your child. And again, I think computer time and an allowance of some sort have been go-tos across the board. Or, some parents have rules on technology in general or media or TV time that they can earn that time based on how they contribute to the household or the tasks that they need to do. So I think just all things to consider when you're putting that in place. Now, I'm off track on what the original question was. See, I'm getting too tangential.
No, actually, this is very, very helpful. So everything that you shared is super important and it needed to be said, Dr. Hay, because I love what you mentioned about the contingency, how to break things down in smaller steps, and really, keeping the motivation up for the kid by making certain structures in place, like putting structures in place, like clean your room once a week or every day, make your bed, or just taking small bites out of the elephant. So that way we can get to the end goal and everybody is happy. The kid has their reward center and their brain stimulated. Parents get what they want. We have harmony going on. So I'm curious to know, as I'm thinking, for this dad in despair, sidebar, I love how you said you don't have to be a perfect parent. And did you say...
No, I don't want you to be a perfect parent. That's
don't.
Too stressful.
Right.
But you'll rip your hair out. You won't have any hair out by the end of it, okay?
So like this dad in despair who's tried different approaches, he hit his boiling point, wiped everything out of the room. And so now what we know, due to this great conversation with you, he can go back to his son, complete a repair, and start over. Now, the room is wiped out with the exception of the dresser and the bed. As we wind down in this conversation, what advice do you have for the dad in despair to help with improving the flow of the relationship and putting in contingencies that work?
Parents know their kids best. As a professional that works with a lot of parents, I always rely on the parents. You know your kids best. To say, what is making it hard all of a sudden that we're not cleaning our room? Since it sounds like this youth was cleaning their room relatively well, is on board for a lot of different things, has a lot of great strengths. And again, watch ourselves not to get too tangential, lectury, all that fun stuff. But to say, what's making it hard? Maybe they're started to engage in sports and they have a bunch more on their plates. Maybe homework's got more intense. Maybe they're lacking motivation. Who knows there's a lot of function. I call what is the function of a behavior? And I might explore that. Or maybe the parent already knows, like what's making it hard? And then sitting down and setting up a plan to help that. So if it is a scheduling issue, we help that child schedule more effectively. Because again, that's not a skill set they're born with. That again, is your role as a teacher, as a parent, that helps you give them those skills to manage and time manage and all that stuff that we know helps kids be successful. So I might start there as what is the function of this change? Maybe are they experiencing anxiety? Is something else going on? Again, understanding that, putting some things in place to address that, and then setting up some real specific behavioral expectations. So I don't think we gave this young man a name, this 10-year-old. I'm going to call him Jimmy because I like to use a name. I'll say Jimmy, little Jimmy, and I'm going to go back to my same statement. We can use similar statements too. I love a broken record because then kids know what to expect. You don't have to be new and exciting all the time. But hey, we need to clean our room. Things that we have to do as a family, and part of that is cleaning a room. Me as dad, I make dinner and do whatever. So I'm going to ask that you clean your room once a week. or at least make your bed every day. You know, whatever dad wants the expectations to be. Again, we have to balance that on what is developmentally appropriate and typical for age levels, skill set, and things of that nature. But then defining that. And usually what I say is when I give an expectation or put something into like a chore chart or something of that nature, you really don't want more than 4 or 5 targets because then it becomes too overwhelming too. The list of 20 things becomes too overwhelming. And sometimes we get where kids pick and choose what they want to get the amount of reinforcer that they want. Right. So, if I do 3 tasks, but I really hate vacuuming and cleaning my bathroom, and I don't want to do those, but I can still get some technology time, then I'm going to avoid that. And then parents get frustrated. So that's a lot of some of the hurdles that I see in parents say, chore charts don't work for me, or, some type of sticker chart doesn't work for me. Those are some of the things that come into place. So I think being reasonable, being specific, and then small. So we don't want to, 20 lists on the thing to clean your room, because then you're going to lose your kid too. You can get to all those 20. So the beautiful thing is when you break down behavior is start with your 3 or 4 biggest ones. If he's not doing anything right now, okay, I'm not going to put the list of 20 because we're not going to get any of those then.
Right.
I might say maybe for me as a parent, I can't stand when that bed's not made and I walk past that room and that bed's not made, or that there's clothes on the floor and they're not in the hamper how they should be. So picking the ones that give you the most bang for your buck, help you reduce your frustration with that. And then you can add more in. So once a child masters it and they got it, then we shape it down and then add something new in. So it might be that making your bed, and after a couple of weeks, kids got it. He's on board. He's done it before. He just needed a little bit of a push. So he's making the bed, the putting your clothes on the hamper are shaped down into one target or one way to earn something. And then you add something else in. Maybe we do the ones that are a little bit harder. You got to dust, or you got to organize stuff, or you got to throw your papers away, or empty the trash, or pick up the dog poop, or whatever it may be. I throw dog poop in there, but he shouldn't be doing that in his room. But
and you never know, anything's possible.
Then we got a whole bigger issue. But I think those are just some of the things you see. It fits with anything. So I think parents have to sit with the patience that, okay, we'll get there. Let's prioritize for myself as the parent or caregiver, what's the most important things, or what's going to give us the most bang for our buck if it's creating a lot of distress in your household or distress for you. And then breaking it down for the level and the skill set of that child. So if they're a child, so a lot of my kids with executive functioning difficulties, such as ADHD, need a lot more prompts or a lot more visual reminders. So I think we talked about the visual schedule. So it might be that we have a schedule where we write it off and they can physically check it off to help them stay on track. Versus, some kids don't need that. Again, your kid best, but if you're struggling and you're finding that they're not meeting the targets, then I'm adding more of that in. And maybe when I'm shaping, I start with, I do give them one prompt. I'm going to give you one reminder, Jimmy. And then once that is, then you'll lose out on that ability to get that technology time. But I really want you to be able to get it. And then I also do every day is a new day. So set it up that I'm not wiping out for the whole week. So if I've messed up on Monday, that I'm not going to do it the rest of the week because, like you said, well, I've already messed up. Who cares? I don't like to clean my room anyways, and I've messed up, and I can't earn anything. So I like to set it up that we have stuff throughout earning potential each day so that every day is a new day, that you might have had a rough day and your room looks like a hot mess. Mm-hmm. And we didn't meet the targets on Monday, but Tuesday's a new day. And that's what you can tell them. You know what? Yeah, we all have rough days. What could we do differently tomorrow? Because tomorrow's a new day and you still have earning potential, or you still have a way to earn some technology time. So again, it's not that all or none, and it's really focusing on immediate, specific, and then the positive. We're trying not to say, well, look at your room. It looks like a disaster. Whoa, awesome. Nice job. I love how you did that. And that comes back into, I think, which we haven't hit a lot, which I focus really, really heavily on with my families, is the positive reinforcement and giving them verbal praise, if it be the tangible, of an allowance, but also verbal praise goes a huge way, very specific verbal praise. So, Jimmy, awesome. I walked past your room and your bed was made. Awesome. You did such a nice job putting the pillows back on and it comes over. Whoa, looks awesome. So again, I think naturally that feels awkward for us.
Mhm.
But we know when we give praise, it needs to be specific, behaviorally defined. So again, what did that child do that you liked versus, oh, nice job. You're doing a nice job cleaning your room. No, be very specific. Wow, Jimmy, you know what? I love it. I walked in here. I could see your floor. I like to use humor a lot too, but your parents have to find their style.
That's right.
Um, it smells like roses in here. I love it. Oh, it's so much better than dirty socks. you know, but again, being specific, because I think our kids know, but that really boosts a lot to move behavior in the direction that we want. And we can be very specific and think about it. So there's research out there that shows when we give a correction or a contingency or focus on the negative, we need about 4 or 5 positives to balance that out. That the negatives and focusing on the things that we're not doing well are very, very powerful because our nonverbals, our emotional reaction, it gives so much power to have that positive praise work. You need to be doing that a lot more, if that makes sense. And you're going to get way more. It's like watering that plant and you're just showering it. So again, if you can focus more on that when you're implementing these things, that's going to help you out immensely and moving that behavior in the direction that you want.
Dr. Haight, I have notes here that I'm so thankful to have shared this time with you. I have notes here from this conversation that will help me in conversations that I will be having with my parents in the very near future. This is structured, helpful, and I think, at least for me, and I know it will be for the parents that hear this, extremely motivating to practice positive reinforcement, catching the child being good, being specific and behaviorally defined about what the expectations are to end up getting to the same end goal and increasing harmony in the household. Dr. Haight, I appreciate you for your validation, your warmth, your knowledge, and your humor. You have been absolutely fabulous, and thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you being able to let me speak about parenting stuff because this is a big part of what I do. I think we only hit the surface, so I'll definitely provide some resources that hopefully you can share with your listeners on behaviorally based parenting strategies. So that's what we talked about today. If folks are looking for additional resources, because I know there's a lot of options out there in regards to parenting programs, parenting classes, that these really fall under behaviorally based parenting strategies. And I'll make sure that you have those resources. And I always tell folks, again, we hit so much in a little conversation, and really how we put this into place and how we do it and when we do it and how we do it is how that makes parents successful. So like you've probably heard that oftentimes folks say, my chore chart didn't work. It's all about how we implement it and doing it at the right time and reinforcing at the right time. So I really would say if folks feel like this sounds like a good system for them, that they reach out to those resources so they can gain some more information and see if maybe there's behaviorally based resources in their community as well to be able to get additional resources, and even a parenting class or things of that nature that are behaviorally based will help them really tweak these things to their individual family and child's needs.
I love it. And maybe, just maybe, because we kind of have a cliffhanger going on, because of course there's more to speak about, maybe you can come back on the show, but I won't push it because that's a conversation for a different day. Dr. Hay, thank you so much, and you take good care.
Have a wonderful day, Vina.
Thank you. Such a cool and helpful conversation with Dr. Haight. Quite a few things jumped out at me in this conversation, and that included the importance of children getting the goals that parents have in mind broken down for them in smaller steps, as well as the importance of shaping behavior with positive reinforcement. Like I mentioned, well-intended parents who may be at their wits' end, Dr. Haight identified this too, wiping all the things out of the room makes sense in the moment, and for long-standing, long-term behavioral changes, considering doing something opposite of that would be beneficial. Another really cool thing, in my opinion, that Dr. Haight touched on included setting attainable goals to inspire long-standing changes in behavior from our children, as well as the importance of using rewards for the child engaging in desired behavior in skillful ways. To learn more about Dr. Haight's practice and the resources that she encourages us to check out, Please look in the show notes for more information. As always, I am sincerely appreciative for you listening to today's episode. And until next time, peace.